Michael Jordan is a name that obviously needs no introduction. The greatest of his time, with a name that has come synonymous with the game of basketball itself. With a run of terror in his prime as dominant as anyone in the history of professional sports, there have been more than a few that have fallen victim to his airness. As not only was Michael Jordan infamous for his success as an on-floor talent, but also for his psychopathic drive to destroy you physically, mentally, and emotionally. To be the ultimate winner comes an abundance of losers, falling by the wayside, some bad and some much, much worse. With the NBA season back around, the dark days of the offseason are all over, and there's no better way to experience your favorite team than live and in person. I know we all wish we could catch a few more games this year than the last, like every year it seems, but whether it be price, timing, or whatever your issue, it never seems to work out. But with the Game Time Sports app, finding killer deals on seats is easier than ever. With views from your seats and all-in prices right in your face, they take the guesswork out of the ticketing process. I can't wait to fill any empty Saturday with seeing my Timberwolves finally be competitive for once. And with incredible last-minute deals and the simplicity of a 2-click purchase, it's time to leave the excuses in the past. With the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, and even job loss protection, Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. It's time to finally follow through this year and download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code SWISHCOUNTY for $20 off your first purchase. Again, redeem code SWISHCOUNTY for $20 off. And thank you to the Game Time app for sponsoring today's video. At a time where very few teams in the East got to shine, there were quite a few all-time rosters that were buried into the history books. But I don't think anyone caught a bigger beatdown than the Cleveland Cavaliers. With the likes of Magic Johnson declaring them the team of the 90s prior to the commencement of the decade, they had talent like Mark Price, Brad Daugherty, and Larry Nance, and the team was very underrated all time. With top-to-bottom makings of a championship roster, the only thing standing in their way was, well, the greatest Cav killer in the NBA. If you think that's an exaggeration, let's take a look back to their first playoff encounter in 1988, in a very tight first-round matchup in a series that still stands out as one of the greatest of all time. At 45 points, 5-5 with 3 steals and a block and a half, on 56% shooting and 92% from the line, Jordan was clearly a man possessed. But as crazy as it sounds, this is far from his most infamous beatdown against the Cavaliers. As the Cavaliers started to come into their own the following year, matching up with the Bulls in the first round again was a whole new ballgame. At 57 wins in the regular season, the Cavs were the new favorite against the 6-seeded Bulls, coming off the loss of their anchor in Charles Oakley. As a heavy underdog largely written off, Jordan may have upped his once-in-a-lifetime series with one even more crazy, averaging another 40-piece, this time with 6 boards, 3 steals, and a crazy 8 assists per game. No matter what he was doing, it was working. There's no answer to the Michael Jordan problem, but the closest the Cavaliers could come was in shooting guard Craig Ehlo. Known for his value as a defender, Ehlo was yet to prove himself in the NBA. Despite having the most hellacious matchup on planet Earth, Ehlo came out with the game of his life. With 6 seconds to spare, Jordan put his Bulls up 1 in winner-go-home Game 5, smoking Ehlo in the face in the meantime, adding insult to injury. With 6 seconds to go, a give-and-go into the high post resulted in a backdoor layup, giving Ehlo not only his playoff-high 24 points, but more importantly, the game-winning point to put the Bulls away. With 3 seconds, the game was all but over. Before...
He looks, he gives to Jordan to the circle, puts the shot in the air, good!
And just like that, the Cavaliers were put to bed. Over the next 7 years, the Cavs were put down at the hands of the Bulls 5 times, and despite being one of the most talented of the era, they went down as more of just a punching bag to juice up Jordan's highlight reels. More specifically, Ehlo was never able to live down being the guy who created one of Jordan's most infamous highlights, and really one of the most infamous plays in sports history. Despite actually earning a starting spot in the coming years, the beatdowns certainly didn't end. As March 28, 1990, in what was Ehlo's best year of his career, Jordan let him know that this matchup he was knocking down every shot he took, before putting up a career-high 69 right on his head. His 14 years as a solid role player in the NBA for a very solid team means pretty little to anyone. And to cap off his story, the end of his career with the Cavs and basically his career looked a little familiar.
Got it back. 3, 2, Michael falls, fires. Yeah! Does it again!
At least it wasn't over him this time, I guess. As Jordan entered his prime, the Chicago Bulls truly were a few notches above everyone else, with notable support including guys like Scottie, Bill Cartwright, and Horace Grant. The team was top to bottom pretty built at the tail end of their first three-peat, but one name you likely don't remember is the 1992 edition of an off-the-bench punch in Rodney McRae. Averaging 16 a game just 2 years prior, the 1983 third overall pick was about as serviceable as they come, and helped relieve some of the scoring obligations off of Michael Jordan's back. Or at least, that was the plan anyways. As a late career journeyman and ring chaser, landing a spot on the Bulls with a full head of steam, looking to finish their third straight was about as safe of a bet as you could get. But sadly, his run on the Bulls took an unexpected turn pretty quickly. No matter where you were in the presence of Michael Jordan, you can expect full intensity and focus in whatever's at hand, whether it be game time, practice, cards on the plane, or whatever the hell. As the ultimate competitor, Jordan was going to beat you any way possible, and McRae certainly found this out the hard way, as McRae would make the crucial mistake of engaging in friendly trash talk once with Michael Jordan. It pretty quickly turned into a mistake he wouldn't forget, as from this point forward, he was now on the hit list. Taking every advantage to dominate him in their practice matchups wasn't enough. Jordan would go out of his way to constantly embarrass and mock McRae, stopping practice to scream in his face, letting him know that he's a loser who's always been nothing more. The results of this uncomfort within his own job were McRae reportedly not feeling comfortable throwing up his own shots at practice, and production that plummeted way below his career averages of 12 points a game, all the way down to 3. Despite only being 30 years old at the start of the season. I guess you could say at least he was successful getting his ring this season, even though he served as a practice dummy for the real thing. But after seeing the makings of a championship the hard way, McRae would never see an NBA floor again. To anyone who tuned into the Last Dance documentary, it's pretty evident that if there's one thing Michael Jordan is agreeable about, it's his mutual disdain for general manager Jerry Krause, with a beef dating all the way back to his sophomore season in the NBA. After a broken foot, Jordan's competitive side was driving him crazy, basically having withdrawals from sitting on the bench. And after Krause shut down his offer to play, it seemed like he had to rub it in his face a bit after. Krause stated, "You're Bulls property now, and we tell you what to do." It was the NBA's worst kept secret that the Bulls grew to hate this guy, and Jordan may have been his main target. The overly competitive, socially awkward, and overweight executive was subject to plenty of ridicule by the players, being nicknamed Crumbs for constantly being covered in donut crumbs, and even getting mooed at when he dared to step in the locker room. There's a lot you can say about Krause, but what you can't criticize is the value that he brought. With one of the best eyes for talent in the league, Krause was the developer that helped build this juggernaut. Krause certainly had his favorites, and Jordan punished them for that. Knowing the fondness that Crumbs had for his new small forward and Jordan's future teammate, Scottie Pippen and MJ set out to embarrass Krause's new golden boy. In a 1992 Olympic matchup against Croatia, Jordan walked into the locker room and told the greatest team ever assembled that Tony Kukoc wasn't getting one basket that night. And after denying him the ball, pressuring him full court, and beating him down physically and mentally, Jordan and Pippen held him to 4 points on sub 20% shooting with 7 turnovers. And this certainly wasn't the only time Jordan set his sights on one of Krause's guys. A guy who kinda embodied a lot of things that Chicago represented was Thunder Dan Majerle. A hard-nosed kid who put his head down and worked for everything he got. And for that reason, he was always admired by Krause, who regretted not picking him up in 1988. After being booed by his own fans after his selection, he really didn't make any excuses, and after a few years, blossomed in being an all-star coming off the bench in 1992. It's no small feat in reality. A natural defender blossoming his catch-and-shoot and shot-creating skills is not a very natural progression at all, and really does show the hard work that this kid displayed. But Michael Jordan didn't want to hear that. After repeatedly hearing the high praise of the kid who is now the number 2 or 3 guy on the best team in the West, Jordan set his sights on murdering Dan Majerle, who really did nothing to him. As a guy known for his defensive impact, when they matched up in the 1993 finals, Jordan was drooling at the opportunity to prove that Thunder Dan was nobody in comparison. In an opportunity to show him up, he pretty much killed him. Blowing by him every possession, pulling up for jumpers when that got boring, At a finals record 41 points per game, Thunder Dan looked pretty useless. As the series would end on a last-minute 3 from John Paxson in Game 6, Jordan would grab the ball off a game-winning shot and yell out, "Thunder Dan, my f***." After Jordan's reign in the NBA, it's safe to say that his impact on the game is still felt today. Jordan Brand remains one of the largest brands in the world 20 years after he last laced them up. The popularity of the sport remains at the moon due to his likeness, while his accolades, accomplishments, and records will stay in the history books forever. A career obviously worthy of a Hall of Fame induction, where he kind of made himself look like a jackass, but regardless, was quite the moment of reminiscing on a run that could only be described as the greatest of all time. A run that would make him a multi-billionaire at one point and turn him into the most popular man in Chicago. During a time where the city was celebrating the accomplishments of their very own through his Hall of Fame induction, one business decided to throw his airness a little bit too much love. A Chicago-based grocery store decided to pay their respects to their star by giving out $2 coupons to the people of Chicago for one of their steaks with a large 23 logo and a congratulations for his monumental career accomplishment. The campaign clearly caught little wind as a total of 2 coupons would ever be cashed, but Michael Jordan himself was one of the ones that caught word of the unapproved use of his likeness. After years and years of dominating on the court, Jordan lawyered up and decided to dominate in the court as well, suing Dominics for $10 million for the unapproved $4 promotion, with lawyers pleading to the jury of the value he's given his name and brown-nosing them with the 6 banners he put in their rafters. The jury erred heavily on Jordan's side clearly, finalizing damages to Jordan totaling $8.9 million, a far shot from Dominic's plea of $126,000. It's no wonder why the old Dominic's building is now sitting vacant, and it's no wonder why Michael Jordan is still looked at as one of the biggest assholes in NBA history. Thanks for watching if you made it this far, and I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace out.